Okay, and welcome everybody to what I believe is the 17th edition of the old Git Gooners Podcast. And I've got a few genuine fellow old Gits, no youngsters on the panel this evening. So it's the real deal, people with memories of European adventures going a long way back. So we can actually talk with some authority about the club's history related to recent events. But first, I'm going to introduce my guests, and I'm going to be fairly brief. They've all been on before, and they are more than welcome back. And the first one is Mr. Tony Madden. Next up is Mr. Ian Henry. And finally, we have Basti Wocker. The other thing to briefly explain is that normally I do this every 2 weeks, 3 week gap with this one because last Thursday I was traveling back from Madrid and I couldn't do it on the Friday either. So we just decided to wait a week, and it's been quite a week indeed. So it's no bad thing. I'm going to start off with immediate events, which of course means Tuesday evening and Arsenal's progress to their second ever. I like to call it the European Cup final, but of course you youngsters will know it as the Champions League, which is a bit of a bastardization because you don't even have to be a champion to qualify these days. But I mean, we are there, and it was quite an evening. Now, let's put my cards on the table. I am in Thailand on a work trip, which was arranged quite a long while ago, long before Arsenal qualified for the semi-final. And so I watched it on a screen. However, I suspect Mr. Madden was there. I know Mr. Henry was there. And I'm sure Mr. Wocker was also watching on a screen because it would have been, unless someone got your ticket, Basti. I don't think they did, no.
No.
So let me start with Tony. I mean, I wasn't there, but, I've heard things about the atmosphere which perhaps claimed it might have been the best at the Emirates since it actually started business back in 2006. What would you say to that?
I'd say it was. I'd say it was. I thought the first 20 minutes, from about 10 to 8, quarter to 8, it started lifting. 10 to 8, it was the crowd was singing. By kick-off, it was deafening. We've got to give their fans their credit. They were good. They kept going. But the atmosphere throughout the game, it ebbed and flowed. I mean, I think there was a nervousness from time to time. But I don't know what Ian thought. I thought the last 20 minutes was just Arsenal, Arsenal, and all the songs coming up.
Yeah.
And at the final whistle, well, the scenes were like nothing I'd ever seen at the Emirates. It was.
Yeah. I mean, I would agree completely. I mean, the only thing that I could think was comparable to that would be the night we beat Juventus with that Willie Young goal in whatever the competition was, but at Highbury in 1980 to get through to the final there. And I was on the North Bank, and it was pretty raucous in the North Bank that night. But this time the stadium was absolutely rocking, and you could feel it moving where I was high up in the North Bank. The view of the fans was tremendous, and the scenes at the end were just bonkers. I've never seen anything like it at an Arsenal stadium.
I look across, Ian, to the North Bank. I sit on the sort of level with a 6-yard line, but looking at the North Bank and looking across the upper tier where you must have been.
Yeah.
And where you were, it just looked fantastic.
It was.
And what was great was that normally the stands, no matter what the game, half the people leave, don't they? They get out. Nobody left.
No.
The stadium was full at the final whistle.
Well, I thought the pillock next to me did leave. Sorry for my language. Did leave a few minutes before, and I said, "How can you leave?" And he gave me some expletive. I mean, I couldn't understand it.
I'd charge him to leave.
Yeah, I thought it was disgraceful. And actually, what was interesting was, I arranged to meet a mate outside because I was giving him a lift back. And I said, well, if we win, I'll stay behind for about 10, 12 minutes or so. And I had to get up early for work the next morning, so I wouldn't want to be too late. But when I met him outside at the Tony Adams statue, the concourse was almost deserted. Virtually everybody was still in the ground.
Yeah.
And it was, Kevin, it was very impressive.
Mm.
Well, it's all in the timing. Basti, where did you watch it?
On my laptop at home. Didn't get a ticket, and in a strange sort of way, I know this sounds ridiculous, but because I'm in a band called Ridiculous that had rehearsal the next day and I needed a voice, I'm pretty glad I still had a voice for rehearsal, because I'm pretty sure if I was in the stadium, I wouldn't have had one left.
I didn't have a voice by the time I got up in the morning. Yeah.
All right. Well, Basti, I'll give you an opportunity to do a 20-second plug for Saturday evening. Go on.
Oh, well, thank you. Yes, my band Ridiculous will be playing at the Camden Club in Camden Town, right opposite the Roundhouse. It used to be the Belgo Belgian restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
And there are 2 Gooners and 2 Tottenham fans in that team. There's John Moss, Tottenham fan, formerly of Culture Club on drums. Aaron Baron Cohen, the brother of Sacha Baron Cohen, who is a Gooner. And then Pete Noon, not Pete Noon, the Pete Noon you might be thinking of, but a different one, bassist, who did play with Roger Daltrey and also Roger Taylor of Queen. So he's got a bit of pedigree. And it kicks off on someone's shouting over there. It's sorry about that. We're getting interrupted. We got ridiculous fans coming in through the door here now. So it kicks off this Saturday, the 9th of May at 8 o'clock. So be there or be square.
Right.
That's it.
Well, with your 20 seconds there, Basti, you could be a referee for Alex Ferguson back in the day. Fergie time style accuracy on the clock. But anyway, plug over. As for myself, it was a game which took place at 2 a.m. local time, finished at 4 a.m. here. I think I might have woke people up in the neighbouring rooms in my hotel, but never mind. It doesn't happen often. So, I mean, I don't really need to unpick the game too much, but let's just talk about some of the performances from certain individuals. And this also kind of includes Fulham to an extent, because it was the same starting 11. I'm going to start with you, Mr. Ian Henry. And I will confess I had, okay? But had you given up on Victor Gyokeres as a centre forward?
I hadn't. I'm not quite sure why. I just felt there would be times when he would come good for, he couldn't be that bad, as it were. And I thought he bullied the Madrid defenders all night, and he did really well to set up the cross for the goal. But actually, I mean, it goes without saying, I think Declan Rice gave a 9.5 out of 10, if not a 10 out of 10 performance. But I just thought Myles Lewis-Skelly was wonderful in the midfield. Such a shame nobody was on the end for that cross that he put in halfway through the first half. I think for an 18-year-old who had spent last season at left back and become our 3rd or even 4th choice left back this season, hadn't had a start in midfield since his youth team days, to come in to play as well as he did against Fulham at the weekend, and then to give us best part of 70 minutes in a European semi-final leg to qualify for the final, and put in the performance that he did, I just thought was unreal. I think I've seen a midfield player play that well, because it was full on. You see, when Yamal first came in for Barcelona, when he got the ball, he was brilliant, but he flickered in and out because he wasn't at the centre of things. But to do that for, as an 18-year-old, that Lewis-Skelly did, he reminded me of whether it's a different kind of style of play, of Fabregas, because to have that maturity to play that way, I thought was just astonishing, really astonishing.
Yeah, I thought I could only echo really what Ian said.
Okay,
I thought there were.
So,
sorry, I can only echo
Go on,
what
Tony.
Ian said. I thought Lewis-Skelly was he was just superb. He was like a breath of fresh air in that midfield there against Fulham. And And it was the question on everyone's lips, wasn't it, as we walked out against Fulham, was, will he start him against Madrid? We all thought Zubamendi would come back in. But to be fair, Zubamendi has looked tired the last few games. And Skelly was like a breath of fresh air coming in and picked up where he left off against Madrid. He was superb. And Gyokeres now, I mean, Gyokeres to me, I've been up and down. I'm not going to lie. I've been up and down with him. There's been times he's really frustrated me. But I've thought all season is we don't use his runs enough. We don't use his physicality, and we don't use him. Shearer, funny thing, the other night, a match of the day, really made a good analysis when he pointed at a cross, well, not the cross coming in, when Trossard had the ball, I can't remember, Bournemouth. And he says, look, there's the run, but the ball gets recycled back across the 18-yard line. And I thought, that's exactly what Gyokeres has been lacking all season, is people to trust him a little bit more. And I think he's gaining that trust all of a sudden. And I think he's fighting for it. He's making them trust him. So I don't think they enjoyed him much, Madrid.
He seems to have also managed to, when he gets the ball, he can hold it up now a little bit, and he finds that little reverse pass between two opposition players. And has started finding someone, either Saka or whoever, making the run in there. And so he's got that little deft. I wouldn't call it deft. He's not deft, is he? But he does get a practical part. He's starting to now get some practical little one-touch passes in, and that's helpful. And that crossover to Trossard, which then ended up being a shot on the goalkeeper and a goal for us. So he is, as you said, he's bullying players, and he's kind of. He's making a nuisance of himself. And, by the way, I think he's scored more goals than anyone else in our team. So he is our top scorer, which is why we got him, because we wanted 20-odd goals a season off him. With 3 games left, maybe he'll get a few more, and it's a pretty reasonable return.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think I read somewhere that he was I think he scored as many or more goals in his first season at Arsenal than anybody apart from Henry and Sanchez in recent years. So it's quite,
Can't complain, really, can we?
I'm not going to complain, really, overall.
Although some people will, obviously.
Of course.
That's just all they do, anyway.
Anyway, it is what it is.
Okay. I mean, let's look forward. Do you think that Gyokeres is going to stay as the first choice when Havertz is presumably fit enough to start a match? Do you think he's now earned that right to keep Havertz on the bench?
No, I don't. I think actually, or I hope that Arteta will be sensible enough and brave enough to use his squad and rotate a bit more strategically next season. I mean, Tony said that Zubamendi looked tired. I don't really understand how Declan Rice can even, walk, let alone run for 90 minutes, the hours that he's put in. And I think, different teams will require different kinds of players. And I don't think Gyokeres actually, against a top-performing Man City defence or a top-performing Liverpool defence, if they ever have won a game, is necessarily the right player week in, week out in the Premier League. For some games, I think you need a defter kind of player like Havertz, or, I don't want him to stay because he's past it now, but a kind of player like Jesus, who on his day was able to hold the ball and wriggle around and do that sort of thing. You need the options. And I think to maintain the success that we hope we are going to see this season going forward, I think in key positions you need more strategic rotation. And I think that's why they bought Madueke to cover more for Saka. I think he's been a great success. And you need that in key difference-making positions. And, of course, the centre-forward is one of them. So probably there'll be one player I think will play 2/3 of the games, and one will play a third, and they'll mix and match a bit and have a backup. But there'll be games when Havertz, I think, will be more suited to it if he's fit.
I agree. I think that's the beauty of a good squad, isn't it? It allows you to pick the team. not always right from the first minute either. You know, you can change it as the game goes through. I think if you're going after a side, I think if you're on the front foot and you're attacking a side, I'd go with Gyokeres every time. I think if you're looking at a side saying we don't want to break our defensive shape and our midfield shape too much, so we're going to go through in a quite structured way, then I think, you know, Havertz up front makes sense, because I think you can hit him and he can hold it and people can go past him. Gyokeres is not so good at that. The ball comes off him too much. But I think, you know, if you're decided that, you know, it's whatever minute of the game, whether it's minute 1 or minute 60, that you're going to turn this into an attacking game, I think suits Gyokeres more. So I think, you know, they've both got their merits. I suspect there'll be another big name forward there next season. Not sure it'll be, but I think there'll be another one.
Well, that is the question, of course, because, you know, Arsenal, they'd probably have to sell a fair bit to buy a big, simply to stay within the regulations after buying maybe one big player. So they've got some interesting decisions to make there. So, yeah, obviously Jesus is on the way. I mean, let's just ask that question again, but I'm now asking you to pick your forward for the final against PSG in Budapest. What kind of game is that going to be? And is it a Gyokeres start or a Havertz start? Given, let's face it, Havertz has scored the winner for a team we don't like. So he's certainly got history in a big game of that nature. And it also asks the question of what kind of approach we're going to take to that game. I mean, is it going to be end to end, or are we going to just sort of say, look, we're not going to let you score, and let's see what happens?
I think that would be very dangerous to just sit back and let Paris Saint-Germain bed in our penalty area. We know what they've got up there, and we know how dangerous they are. And I think that the best form of defence is attack. And let's go and play them. We can play football, and I think we should go. And it's obvious. And I don't want to put parallels with our foe Tottenham at the other end of the table, but it's quite obvious to me that if you go and play football and you go and attack a team, like Tottenham did against Villa recently, when rather than sit around looking clueless. And when we started playing against Fulham and we went for it, and even against City, okay, we lost that game, but we went for it and we looked good and we looked like a team again. And you've got to go out and try and win the game. You can't just sit there and hope you're going to get one or two breaks. That's the sort of thing, you know, West Ham used to do against us and stuff, and they'll probably try again on Sunday, but I'm sure you'll get to that. But no, please God, let's go and play some football, you know.
But not play the kind of suicidal high line that Bayern Munich played, particularly in the first leg, but even for the goal last night, you know, they were so high. I'm not surprised that, KK's.
No, we've got to contain
that. I can't pronounce his name. So, yes, we've got to win the game, but I think a bit more control and not playing such a high line, which kind of leads me to say probably he'll start Havertz and bring on Gyokeres. But it may also depend on whether he starts Odegaard or Eze and how many minutes he thinks he can get out of Saka. Because the one thing I felt really, from my vantage point in the second half on Tuesday, was that Madueke was appalling. And there were a couple of challenges he bottled out of. So if, Saka did the first half against Fulham, he played nearly 60 minutes on Tuesday. Has he got 90 or even 120 minutes in him come the final? And I think that could be a crucial decision about who he plays up front alongside Saka. That would depend in what his fitness level is and how deep he thinks the game's going to go.
I think that's a really good shout here, and I think the Saka's such a pivotal player, isn't he, for how we're going to play. If we've got a fit 100% Saka, then I probably would go with Havertz, because I think he gives you that extra bit up front, Saka, that Gyokeres gives you. Havertz also gives you that ability to control your attacking play more. I think we've got to play to our strengths, and our strengths is our shape and our structure, and we've got great defenders and we've got great midfielders, and I think we can play. I mean, I'm making this sound very simple, and I know it isn't, but I think that's where the strength in our side is how we can dictate a game. And I think your hope against PSG is to get into the game and get it played at your pace. If we allowed him to get control of it too much, then we could be in trouble. So I think it's players for me that aren't always going to be on the, the players who can be more dependable. And I just see Havertz as having that little bit more of keeping the play moving in the way we want it to. And if we get it forward, he'll hold it more and bring players into it. Yeah. I do agree with you. What about Matt? I like Madueke, actually. I think he's better than people give him credit for, but he did duck out of a couple of challenges the other night. There's no two ways about it. That one right near the end where he could have gone through his head, that really annoyed me.
Well, I was right in line with that, and that really got me and everybody around us. So
because that was his ball, and he turned his back on it, and that was
I'll just to play devil's advocate here, because I'm thinking that seeing the last 2 or 3 games, Saka and Gyokeres have been linking up both ways, helping each other out. And actually, they've seemed to have formed, I wouldn't call it a partnership exactly, but they've been passing to making goals for each other and been at both ends of scoring them. And I'd like to see how that develops over the next 2 or 3 games in the Premiership. Yeah. And I think then make a judgment on, obviously it's a different thing, the final, but I quite like the way they seem to be working together. There's an understanding building there between Saka and Gyokeres. Not to say that Havertz doesn't have one as well, but I'm kind of keeping an open mind about that.
Yeah, I think it also helps
when it comes to
on Tuesday. I think
Madueke. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say on Tuesday. I think it also helped that Ben White had, I think, arguably his best game in a long time, and he linked the attack very well in a way he hadn't before. And I don't know whether that was because, he also had a very good relationship with Saka, and that was there. And Lookman really didn't challenge him at all there. He had it in his pocket all evening, I thought. So I think that helped. That's more of a challenge when it comes to PSG, because their 3 strikers are interchangeable. They don't play that in the more fixed positions, which virtually every other team does, because Paris don't play with anything like a recognised centre forward. They're 3 interchangeable.
Much more fluid than that. It moves so quickly.
So that may actually determine the kind of defensive setup. And I think he'll play Hincapié in the final rather than Calafiori to guarantee that a bit more solidity. I mean, obviously,
Hincapié looks very good. I like Hincapié. I think he's developing into a really, really strong player. And that cross he put in for Gyokeres was just like bang on. It was a shame it didn't go in. But on the other side, I'm thinking Madueke, when Saka's off, the difference, that for me, it feels like there's a drop in quality there. It's not that I don't like Madueke, but I don't see him finished product from him at the end of a run or at the end of the thing. And when he's confronted with players, he's not really beating them all the time and then getting a cross in for me. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not a massive fan, but it's unfair in a way because Saka's such a good player that when you take him away, who can live up to that? And
Max Down
play to that standard. Well, yes, one for the future and
for 30 minutes in the final. Why not?
Never know.
I also think on the other side of the defence, I think we've got Ben White did play very well the other night. But if Timber's fit, Timber gets in for me. I think Madueke does okay really at times. I think he does that old trick of wingers where he tries to beat one too many, and then that really irritates me. And it's saying, like, you've done well, you've beaten one, now play a good ball rather than try to take the second and play a bad ball. And that's a little bit of, I suppose at his age, you ain't coaching that out of him now, it's there.
But for me, that's exactly the thing. That's the difference between adequate and okay. You said okay. We need better than okay at this level. Okay isn't good enough.
I agree, Basti. I think there's 3 or 4 players out there now that who have played a lot of first-team games this season. But I think if we go into next season, we need an upgrade in a few positions.
Yeah. So, okay, Tony. Who would they be? Who would they be?
God, this is harsh, isn't it? Because I love them all, but I look at Martinelli and I think, can we have a better player than Martinelli? I think yes, we can. I think Trossard is a great player, but can we do better? Yes, we can. I think we do need another forward. And then there's something about the centre of midfield I still don't think it's quite right. If you could get Odegaard and Eze into one player and mix them, I think you got one hell of a player. But there's something there that's not quite right to me either. But where I'd be looking more, though, is the Trossard and Martinelli. I think that left-hand side going forward needs to be far more potent than it is now. I do think Madueke probably gets next season for me, because I think we need to spend our money elsewhere. But I think another forward. I really, really do think another. Great that Gyokeres is scoring goals, but I think we need another bloke who's chipping in with more than what we're getting out of Havertz. So,
okay. I mean, because it was a 2 a.m. kickoff, I didn't watch the second leg of the Bayern PSG game. So obviously, first leg, a lot of comments about what a spectacle, but not actually very much in the way of defending. Now, first question I got is, just put your hand up if you actually watched that game on Wednesday night.
I saw half
the
of
first
it, so I put my hand up half, but I fell asleep at half time.
Goodness me! Well, I don't know. I was asleep well before kickoff over here, but I'm going to go to Tony.
I was kind of half watching it because I was looking at something on my phone. It was.
Okay. I mean, obviously it's 1-1. It was 1-1, which is the same score as the first leg of our game at Atletico. Did we suddenly see that both teams could actually defend?
Absolutely.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. The funny, I said that to. Who was I talking to today about it? And an old Gooner who's I bumped into out voting actually, and I said to him, I expected the good news to be that neither side could defend. And I said, and the bad news was PSG can defend, and they did defend there quite well. So,
because Bayern were attacking. Bayern were having a go the first half. It was pretty much them go, and PSG on the break, apart from the first goal.
Yeah.
And PSG just stopped them. They couldn't get through them. They couldn't really hurt them from the first half. I didn't see the second half, but they can defend.
Yeah, I mean, they had their chances, Munich. They really did. They had some chances, but great display from their goalkeeper. Absolutely superb display from the PSG keeper. And they were sound. They worked hard, PSG. They worked really hard. They were an all-round unit. And when they come forward, wow, do they come forward. They really come at you. But
I've heard that there were some decisions which might have gone Bayern's way, which were marginal, and went for PSG, a potential second yellow card for one player, and a potential handball, I think, also.
Well, the handball was a PSG player kicked it against another PSG player's hand. It was a clear handball, but the rules state clearly that if your own player kicks the ball against you and it doesn't end up in the net or lead to a goal, it doesn't count. It's just not considered a handball. I mean, I thought penalty, and the whole stadium went mad. I mean, you could see Bayern were livid. And I thought at the time, but later it was explained that there was this rule.
I must say, his hand was out as well, wasn't it, Basti? I personally thought when I looked at the handball, the one that he didn't get the second yellow, I thought he was very lucky not to get a second yellow.
I saw that on highlight.
He was very, very lucky not to get a second yellow there.
Yeah.
How long was left?
Oh, that was very early in the game. That was about 20 minutes in.
It was before I fell asleep.
Huge decision. Ian, sorry, I interrupted.
I was going to say, I think we also have to accept, whether we like it or not, that penalty decisions and VAR-related issues are looked at differently on the continent in general and in UEFA matches compared to what we're used to in the Premier League. And I don't think that the Eze penalty would have been overturned if that be, in the first leg, if that had been the Premier League game. I don't think they would have done, because it wasn't. I think generally, I think that they stick to those things more. But UEFA also have a much higher margin on occasions for little things that, conversely, the Ben White penalty, the handball in the first leg, probably wouldn't have been given in England because it was a clear deflection off the knee, I think, or his thigh, and it was very close at his hand. So, the Premier League interpretation would be that was unavoidable, but that was not the way they look at it through European eyes. So I think what we think are marginal decisions, whether it's penalties or second yellows or this, that, and the other, we're just going to have to accept that they tend to look at it slightly differently to, the way we might see them being given here. Whose fault that is another question.
I just want to slightly go on a different tangent to you there on the one out, the Eze penalty. Personally, I thought it was a penalty. Personally, I thought VAR should never have got involved.
Yeah.
I don't think even in the continent they would get involved in that. I think it was a very, very poor piece of refereeing and VARing. So I think they got that completely wrong. On every aspect. They got it wrong. VAR should not have got involved, and the referee should have told them not to, because it wasn't clear and obvious. But the tangent is, until about halfway through last week, I'd not seen the footage from a different angle of Simeone's behaviour on that penalty. And I could not believe what I was watching when I saw that, and how he was not banned from sent off for how he was behaving, arguing with the ref and screaming and shouting. It's not acceptable. I mean, it was not acceptable at all. And I know the Gooners are getting a little. I feel we're getting a bit paranoid about people hating us and stuff. Although I do think they hate us, but how? I can't see that we get away with that. I just thought that was unbelievably terrible behaviour from Simeone after that. And the following day, summed up nicely by Ali McCoist on TalkSport when he said, the man's just classless. And I couldn't have put it better myself. I thought that was an appalling piece of behaviour from Simeone.
It's funny you're talking about people hating Arsenal. Is it an unlikely ally? Wayne Rooney's been kind of singing our praises and saying that he thinks we're worth it and we're good, and he doesn't understand why everyone hates us and all that stuff. And I just thought it was funny that it's a weird world when I'm sitting there nodding my head to Wayne Rooney and agreeing with him. I still think of that time, the 49ers, when he went flying in the penalty area for, ended off what would have been a 50-game run. So funny old world.
But Basti, if it hadn't stopped the 49, we wouldn't necessarily have had the 49 undefeated song, and therefore the 49 Lewis-Skelly song. You have to look at it that way.
That's why we did it. Yeah,
a 56 or 57 would have worked with the same rhythm.
Okay, all right, 57. That's true. Yeah,
I did like it. Wayne Rooney the other night, when Wayne Rooney was on the telly, and they said to him, they were going on about the sendings off for pulling hair. And he was basically saying, "Oh, come on, let's get some sense into the game, William." And he was trying to grab his shirt, and he grabbed a bit of his hair, and then he said, "Anyway, that's why I never grew a ponytail."
Yeah, it's got a bit of a wit.
Well, that's a very funny line from Wayne Rooney.
Yes, indeed. Although I have to say, he is the same age as Cristiano Ronaldo, which on one level beggars belief. But
absolutely, yeah. Had a very hard paper round.
Yes, he's not going to be at the World Cup, unlike Cristiano. Let's put it that way. So yeah, I mean, we're going to switch gears now, because, funnily enough, there is another competition in which Arsenal seem to have an interest, which things have developed significantly since the last podcast, because that was recorded before the visit to Manchester City, and since then we have also played Newcastle and Fulham. And the feeling is very different than it was for a lot of people after the Man City defeat. And yet, in a funny kind of way, that was the beginning of a turnaround because of the way Arsenal approached that game. And my question is, do you think that Arteta realised that actually Arsenal are not going to win the league playing the way they had been for the previous couple of months, where, let's face it, we were trying to draw teams out by holding the ball and inviting them to get forward? I mean, people perceive it as a negative thing. It was a tactic which was designed to create space for presumably some kind of pass, which didn't often happen, but it was not very entertaining to watch. But against City, we saw a different type of performance, one which had aggression and intent and risk critically. And I mean, the question is, where has that been all season? It wasn't like we had a load of new players. It was the same players on the pitch. Odegaard did actually return for that game, and that may have been significant because he certainly had an impact on our performance. And yet, he then did get injured, and we've also continued playing, especially against Fulham, with a similar intent. So my question to you is, do you think Arteta had a change of mind, or do you think the players actually have just decided we can't play this way? We're gonna go for it. Maybe there was some collective decision, but it's been a very different Arsenal in the last 3 weeks.
I don't know really, who made that decision or kicked it off, but I think if we had beaten Bournemouth, we would have continued with that style of play. But the fact that we lost to Bournemouth and lost in probably, I think, what was our worst performance of the season in that way, that tipped it in, whether it's the managers, the players, or everybody's mind, we have got to do something different. But had we won 1-0 against Bournemouth, the thought process, I think, would have been we can get a draw at Man City and keep control of the situation. But losing to Bournemouth meant, in a sense, it forced them to make a change, I think.
I think that's right. I think the pivotal game was, that's the one game I did miss. I've been in Australia for a few weeks, and I was up at 3 o'clock in the morning watching that, and that hurt. I mean, and I think that was pivotal, wasn't it? I think Ian's probably hit on the thing. We're looking at the City game, but perhaps it's the Bournemouth game that was the game changer. To use a Wengerism, I think the handbrake came off then, and it hasn't been put back on. I think we don't have to play with a handbrake on with the players we've got. I think that defensive side of us is there. What we weren't doing is releasing the forward players to play at their maximum. And you're seeing much more of that now. And I welcome it. I think it's exactly what we need now. They look rejuvenated. They look like a weight's been taken off them.
And that's exactly it. Yeah, because we were a team when we were 9 points clear with a game in hand and everything, with something to lose. And then, strangely, losing to City and then not having anything to lose, it felt like a weight was lifted off us, like as fans as well. The whole thing. I mean, and I've heard it said, that it feels like we're like one big, in that stadium, that Bournemouth game, the nerves. I mean, it was just, and every game had started becoming this kind of nervous. We're passing the ball around the back. Raya started making mistakes, and you just can't. When we were really good for the first half of the season, it's because we went out and played our football, which we could do. We're footballers, and we're a great football team. We've got to go and play attack teams. Of course, there are times to defend. Of course, there's all that, but we've got to go out and have it. Because if we don't, we crawled back into our shell, worried about losing something. It all went a bit like that, didn't it? And since that Bournemouth game and the City game, as you say, the brakes are off. And there's that feeling of, well, we've got nothing to lose. Let's go for it. Pardon my French. But we needed to press that F it button and just go out there and have a go. And if we carry on doing that, there's nothing we can't do on a good day.
We're not the first Arsenal team. I really am going to show me age here because, I watched most of I was a very little kid, but I watched most of the double season in 70-71. Look, if anyone who knows their history, look at the start of that season, 4-0, 4-0, 4-0, 6-2, 3-0. Come Christmas, you look at every game afterwards, it's 1-0, 1-0, 2-1, 2-2, and the nerves had got into that side as well, and we shook them off in the end. And it weren't unlike that in 89, was it?
Yeah.
In 89, we should have won that, but Derby and Wimbledon at home.
Derby and Wimbledon,
should have been won. Anfield should never have been needed, So we've been here before. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I can remember the nerves in 71. And I was only 11.
Yeah, so you're the same age as me then. Yeah, I was about 11. Yeah.
I'm not as an old git as you. I was 6, so I only started going after we'd watched that. So don't remember that season, apart from beating Coventry 2-0.
You're in good company because I'm too young to remember it as well. But the question is, do we think the nerves have disappeared now to be replaced by belief? Or do you think the closer we're getting now, they could return?
No, we just got to win our next game. That's it. Kenny Dalglish said it years ago. We've got to win our next game, and that's it. Don't worry about anything. Don't worry about Paris Saint-Germain. Don't worry about Crystal Palace and Burnley. We've got to go out and beat West Ham. That's it. That's it.
I hope you're a better musician than you are impersonator, Basti. The worst Kenny Dalglish I've ever heard.
Oh, Kenny Dalglish, you can't do it very well. Oh, that's Alan Hansen.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's handbrake off time. Play to our strengths. We've got good shape, we've got good structure, but we've got good forward players, and let's trust them.
And I'll let you a pound to a penny that Brentford will get a draw on Saturday at City.
Oh, that would be nice.
I've kind of given up thinking about City. I really have. I don't find it does my health any good. I kind of think let's just us do what we got to do, shall we?
Well, there is a health matter here, actually.
I think I said to you, Kev, a week or so back that I felt that City would drop points against one of Everton or Brentford or Bournemouth, and I was absolutely flabbergasted to see it against Everton in the way it did. And, Brentford have got a lot to play for, and City have got to go to Bournemouth, and that's not going to be easy because Bournemouth have got an outside chance of actually qualifying for the Champions League, and Iraola is a top coach. So I think they will drop points in one of those games, if not both. Yeah, I think I think win on Sunday, which ironically would probably save Tottenham, but never mind. And again, one should never say Burnley is a gimme, but can you honestly see us losing to Burnley? No, or even not drawing that.
I do wonder if we'll have the Tottenham fans wearing their Arsenal shirts like they did for City, though. I wonder if they'll be sitting at home in their Arsenal shirts
for like Arsenal.
Man City match.
I'll ask a few.
I wouldn't mind playing that one back.
By the way, Wayne Rooney also he after the City game he predicted that Everton would take points off Man City.
He did. I saw that. Yeah.
So our mate Wayne, he's on it, and he thinks we're going to win the league. So bring on Wayne. That's all I can say.
Right.
You're not going to do an impression of him, are you?
No. I can't. No, don't make me do that.
Maybe we should sign Wayne as our Gabriel Jesus replacement in that case, because he's obviously such a gooner. But okay. I mean, the one thing I will say is if Spurs do manage to return to that losing form, it could still go to the last game of the season. Yeah. But don't give up on West Ham just yet, even if we've beaten them. There is still a chance.
All right. Fair enough.
But yes, our priorities are obviously our own team. And on that level, let me just check my agenda because, I've completely gone out the window, but I did have something to say, which is that, yes, I think that we are going to go on to just pick the team for the Champions League final. That's one thing I had. Okay. Now I'm going to go round. I'm not going to bother asking about the goalkeeper and the centre backs. Okay. I know they're playing. So when I say a name like Declan Rice, I know you're all going to start. Okay. And this is assumed that everybody is fit. And I'm personally of the opinion that Jurrien Timber will not be match fit. That is my honest opinion about that. So
I don't know enough about that. Is it? No, that's bad.
Yeah, right. He appeared in the tunnel just watching the end of the Fulham game. So he's well enough to physically attend the stadium. But I think I get a feeling that it might not be in time for him. But we'll see. So okay, we've got Raya in goal. Left back, Champions League final. Give me a name, Tony.
Hincapié.
Ian.
Hincapié.
Basti.
Birded.
Right, so that's Calafiori on the bench, and it is a 16 game, of course. We must always remember that. So right back, I think we would all pick Timber. Would anybody not pick Timber if he was fit? So it's just Ben White, really, isn't it?
He's
You're not
got
going
to
play
be match fit, though, so he'll have to have played a game before as
Yeah,
well.
exactly.
To just turn up straight away and then expect to play 90 minutes, that ain't going to happen.
He'd probably have to play against Burnley.
Yeah. I mean, Palace would, or Palace might be okay, but if anyway, yeah, I think it's unlikely to be Timber. I think it will be White, assuming he's fit.
I'm sure Timber's first appearance would be from the bench. I mean, that's the way Arteta does it. So he'd probably have to come on from the bench against Burnley, start maybe against Palace, and might then be okay. But I mean, that's if he's not, then you're going to pick White over Mosquera. I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that. So we've got Rice in the midfield. So it's really now a question of who you're going to put in terms of a quartet. And we could have even put Havertz in here, so it could be a quintet. But you've got Zubimendi, Lewis-Skelly, Odegaard, Eze, and let's say if you're going to play Gyokeres, you might want to play Havertz as a potential in one of the advanced midfield positions. He's played there before. So I'm going to ask you guys to name your two players to accompany Rice in midfield. Tony?
I'd go MLS and Odegaard.
Okay, Lewis-Skelly and Odegaard. Ian?
Probably the same, but I just wonder whether I don't know. Are we agree that Odegaard is a full 90-minute plus match fit?
No, this is a starting 11. I don't think.
And I'm not sure he is, and I wonder whether he is better as a difference maker for the last 30 minutes if we need it, or extra time. So I would go Eze and Lewis-Skelly.
The only reason I wouldn't do that is because I think that Eze he has his moments and he can be good, but he can be a bit lackadaisical and a bit kind of lost. And with Paris Saint-Germain, I'm thinking Odegaard pressing, harrying our place. So come on, let's have this a bit. I'm just worried if Eze might get a bit lost in sort of Paris Saint-Germain soup, if you know what I mean. MLS, yes, definitely. I mean, he's looking up for it and bright and fast and fit and coming of age. So yeah, but I'm 50-50 on. I prefer Odegaard when he's 100%, when he's fit. But he seems to be a little bit. I noticed he even against when he came on against Atleti, he was doing all this all the time and running around and waving his arms and flapping about and pointing and I hate all that. But he can be a bit headless chicken at the moment. Although he's one of our best players when he's really, really good and when he's on it. I just don't think he's returned 100% from that injury and having his baby or whatever it was that's kind of thrown him off a bit at the moment. But I probably would start with him.
Okay, I mean, just for the record, I think Arteta will decide plays Zubimendi in the final. I just got that feeling because of the sheer importance of the game and experience factor. But obviously, MLS is the man in form. So let's see what.
Can I just add? I think also Odegaard and Saka have always had a good understanding. They've not played together a lot recently for some reason. It seems to be one or the other. I wouldn't mind seeing them start together. But yes, I agree with you, Kevin.
I think that's a fitness question, Basti. And I would be staggered if he were to start with Saka, Odegaard and Havertz, because those three might be brilliant together when they're fit, but they're not all three of them fully match fit even now. And so
this final's 3 weeks away, There's quite a lot of time.
Yeah.
Did Havertz come on against Fulham? I don't think he did he?
No.
Okay. So he hasn't actually been used from the bench, which might tell its own story. I don't know. Okay, so Saka on the right, presumably. So who are you playing on the left side of attack, gentlemen? Tony first.
I've gone Trossard. I think he's played well the last few games he's played. I'm not always his biggest fan, but I do think he's played really, really well the last few times, and he's putting in a shift. You know, I love Martinelli. I think Martinelli gives you everything he's got. And if you've got tired defenders, he's the last person you want to see, to be honest. So sometimes from the bench, he's a bit of a difference maker. So I think Odegaard, again, with my favourite, I like the structure of Arteta's side, and I think he plays well in that structure, Odegaard. But if you want the Maverick, then coming on a sub for me, it's Martinelli.
Okay.
Yeah, I think also I would start with Trossard and then have Martinelli to come on and score the winner.
Well, actually, I've had a vision of that. Basti. The final is one Martinelli scoring. I just see it in my head.
I mean, I probably would. I tend to agree the Trossard starting one, but can I just throw a left field-ish idea in? Within Nkapie, he is a more traditional overlapping fullback. Mm-hmm. So I wonder whether that actually gives the opportunity to play Eze on the left alongside Odegaard, because that also gives a bit more space or opportunity for Eze to play a bit more centrally on occasion and not swamp, but add an extra body in the midfield. Because you have, if you need it, you know that Nkapie can overlap in a disciplined manner, which Calafiori doesn't really do. He could be anywhere on the pitch. When you want an overlapping fullback, Calafiori could be on the right wing, which has its merits in some games, but obviously I don't think against Paris. So I just wondered if, with the solidity that I think Nkapie gives you at left back, but also his ability to overlap, whether having a really wide player who pulls wide, which Trossard will do, whether actually having a left-sided player who doesn't necessarily pull wide so much, whether Eze might play that role and that would allow him to move in. And that, incidentally, is the only way I think Eze will get into the England team, by being the nominally left-sided attacker, but with the license really to come infield more.
Okay. I mean, there was a game, I think it might have been, it's either the first leg of the Atletico game or Fulham, but Eze and Nkapie did start. It would have been Atletico away, actually. But yes, I noticed that specifically, that Eze actually didn't spend a lot of time on the left-hand side of the pitch.
Well, did Eze and Odegaard start against City? I'm sure there was one.
No, Odegaard did.
I'm sure there was one game when
Eze came on, I think.
Okay, I'll check. I thought there was one game when they both started when Eze was wide-ish nominally.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, I've so many games, the memory's gone. But
nice choices to have, though.
Yeah. So centre forward, it's Havertz or Gyokeres, Tony.
I'd still say we start with Havertz. I think Havertz just gives us a little bit more control. But Gyokeres isn't. I'm not worried about if it is Gyokeres. That's not a dig at him. I think if we start him, he'll be fine. We'll play a different game. I think when we see the team lineup, like most weeks, when it's the Gyokeres Havertz one, it's probably going to tell you how we're going to play.
Right.
You know.
I do quite like the idea. Oh, sorry, Ian, go ahead.
I agree with Tony, but I don't think he will start Saka, Odegaard, Havertz together. I know there's 3 weeks to go, but they've all three of them been out for long periods of time, and to me, if all three of them had started together for 2 or 3 games for the next 3 games, then yes, they could do that in the final. But I'm not sure they would do that because I think there's still a little bit of these are 3 difference makers. Do we want them all on the pitch at the same time at the beginning when we might really want at least 2 of them on at the end?
Okay, Basti.
I think one thing Gyokeres does give us is that long ball from Raya, which, you know, against a team like Paris Saint-Germain who are going to be at us, to have a breather and get the ball up there, and then maybe he can hold it up, and he's started to hold it up, and it's not bouncing off him as much as it was the first half of the season, the last few games, and he could then link with Saka and whoever's running, you know, overlapping. Just to have a breathe, just for my poor dear heart, actually, because when we're poncing around in our own area with Paris Saint-Germain pressing us, I'm not going to know where to look.
Oh, okay. Now the last time we did win a trophy in Europe was 1994, and we had a back four, of course, of legend, which was Adams, Bold, Winterburn, and Dixon. And you could make an argument. You could make an argument that the reason we won that trophy, especially the final, was the performance of the defence and the goalkeeper. Do you think that the current Arsenal back four and goalkeeper are of a comparable standard and thus good enough to deliver us the trophy if they were able to get one goal at the other end?
Well, speaking as somebody who was in Copenhagen that night, I'd like to say yes to that the current lot are good enough, but I think I'm not quite. I can because of the opposition on the left-hand side in Kvarak, whatever his name is. I think anybody is going to struggle. I think Lee Dixon in his pomp would have struggled. Every right back is going to struggle, and so I don't think the defence alone will be good enough to deliver a win. I think they will be good enough to repel Paris by and large, but I don't think we'll stop them scoring. So we have to come up with a strategy to outscore them. Right. And I think a Paris goal will come from down the left, just in the way that it did against Bayern Munich, I think.
Okay. I don't want to think about them scoring. I'm blocking it out. The guy who's got the name with every letter of the alphabet in it, he worries the hell out of me. I think he's superb. But if I go back to 94 on this side, oddly enough, I think that the fullbacks in 94 were better. Mm-hmm. I think they were a better combination of fullbacks. I'm not going to pick between the Adams and Bold and Saliba and Gabriel. I think they're both tremendous centre halves. You couldn't get a fag paper between them if you compare. But I think that the fullbacks, they were better fullbacks, and as such, that made them a better unit. But just remember that 1994 weren't just about the defence and the goalkeeper. Those defensive midfield players worked their socks off that night. There were players out there who basically probably could barely walk up to get that medal. We didn't walk up, did it? It was on the pitch, if I remember right.
Yeah, it was on the pitch. Yeah.
But it was such a display of structure of a team, and it was the sum of the parts that night that won us that game, and it's going to be the sum of the parts that win us this one if we can do it. I see a lot of similarities between the PSG game and that game back against Parma in 94. They held all the attacking cards. They were all, Asprilla and Zola and all. Everyone was going on about these attacking players they had and how good they were going forward. I don't remember them.
I ended up in a pub with John Jensen that night. I don't know if you two were there, but I ended up in the pub, and Brolin was there. He walked into the pub and he was all because they'd lost. Thomas Brolin walked into the pub and he was there, and everyone was like, "Oh, well, we'd won, so we were all in a good mood." And it was obviously like his local or something. I mean, or he'd been there before, or I don't know. Anyway, it was, and then in walks John Jensen, stands up on the table and starts singing 1-0 to the Arsenal. And what a night! What a night! I was just on a jovial level. The one thing that didn't win us that game was Eddie McGoldrick, although he did come on.
Harsh.
Oh, yeah. It is harsh. It is harsh.
He's struggling up and down that right wing.
Age on the way.
Came on a sudden. I can remember Steve Ashford once telling me he was as good as Ryan Giggs.
ever as a wind-up.
Did Steve say that?
Steve honestly did say that to me.
Only you should never believe a word that the great man used to say.
Well, it's true. He did say the odd thing for effect. Let's be honest.
No, it was.
But I agree with Tony that I mean, Winterburn and Dixon were a different class in that unit. They was just solid. And I remember Winterburn, he was one of the unsung heroes because he'd fight for everything. He'd run back. He never let anything go, He took it personally. Dicko as well. I mean, they were just amazing players.
And I think as a unit, they were stronger than this one we've got now.
so far. But if you look in the modern day, you've got our Champions League record this season. I mean, we could go unbeaten. You know, we have so far. We're the only team. Paris Saint-Germain have lost 2 games in this competition. We haven't. So, you know, touch wood, I'm looking for something. There it is. Let's go the whole way.
And we've only conceded 6 goals.
Is that
2 of them were against that side I've never heard of?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yes. Pirate Almaty in January.
But yeah, you're right. Kajazek Starzis whatever his name is, he is a worry because, I mean, the guy's a monster. He really is.
Well, I mean, I guess we're hoping that Saka will play because he is a better covering attacking winger for his fullback than Gyokeres, for example. So they're going to have to double up on him. I don't think there's any issue there. It's just going to have to get away and sort of see what they can do. But yeah, there's not like a secret, let's put it that way. We know what we're up against. I'm sure they'll be training their socks off. And on that level, let's just take a little peek into Fantasy Island. And let's just say that Manchester City do, let's say, fail to win at Bournemouth on the Tuesday evening before the final weekend of the season. Would you give everyone you're going to start in Budapest the weekend off at Palace if that is an academic game which we don't need to get the result from? And
you mean if we're already champions?
If Manchester City and we of course win against West Ham and Burnley, that's you know, we've got to actually not need result Palace for this to be even a thing, but it's possible. You know, it can't be ruled out. We do think we can possibly beat West Ham and possibly beat Burnley. So if that scenario occurs, would you be resting the first team at Selhurst Park?
I probably would for most. I mean, I certainly would not start Declan Rice. I wouldn't start Saka. I wouldn't start the 2 centre backs. It may depend on what sort of fitness you need to get into some people with legs. And the other variable is, I think it's a reasonable assumption, and people will know by the time this goes out whether Palace have got through to their potential final, which will be on the Wednesday of the week after the end of the season. So if Palace, who are taking a 3-1 lead into their home leg of their semi-final, and one would assume they're going to get through, they get through, they are going to play pretty much a shadow team themselves. So, and there won't be tackles flying in and all this, that, and the other. I would definitely start Eze in that game so he can get the farewell that the Palace fans, and I know a few would like to give him, and a genuine farewell. So I'm confident, Kev, that we will be on Fantasy Island at that point. I think we will have. Yeah, I think City will drop points in one of the games. We will beat Burnley, and I'm 99% sure we'll beat West Ham. So I think even that Bournemouth game could be kind of academic for City. So yes, I think we can.
No, the Bournemouth game can't be academic. I mean, there's no way we can win the title before they play Bournemouth. It's just because they're too close. Unless they got 2 games. Yeah. Okay. Against Brentford as well. So they've got to drop points against Brentford and Bournemouth for that to happen, which I don't really think is likely.
Yeah. No. Okay.
I mean, I suppose for my 2 pence, I'm glad we're towards the end of this now. We're back on the league because I think we're all excited about the Champions League. But the bread and butter is the Premier League, and I want that. I want that so much. I hate going down a rabbit hole of whatever City does, but I think if we are lucky enough to be in a strong position going into that Palace game, then I think we'd be foolish to be risking the health for players, and unless they need the minutes in their legs, because they're coming back from injury or whatever, then you give them some parts of the game. But I would be using the squad to its maximum, including Mr. Max Dowman would be getting a start out there. And I think we've got to, if we were lucky enough to be in that position, I certainly would be saying let's not be silly now.
Mm.
The fans will want to celebrate the league, not worry that they're going to lose players in a dead rubber, and that's So I'd be cautious if I were Arteta.
Yeah, Basti, you're the same view.
Kenny Dalglish just beat West Ham. That's all I care. Kenny's like, beat West Ham.
You're absolutely again, but absolutely right. That's the way we've all got very excited. I hope the players haven't got as excited as we have about getting to the final, because it's really now about getting your head down and getting these 3 games done.
Win the next game. That's it. That's all
what is a potentially delicious scenario, if we can get Basti off his attempt to get back on national TV, is that if we needed a result against Palace, they're not going to put out their strongest team out as any sense of integrity, because they don't owe Man City anything, and they've got to look after number 1. So it would be quite an interesting noise that came out of the Etihad if we were to play a weakened Palace team, win that game, win the title as a consequence, and then hear them start moaning.
Can you see my heart breaking here? Can you see my heart breaking for them?
Because, I mean, the one thing is it would just establish
broken into 115 different pieces.
I know. It's just couldn't happen to a nicer bunch there. On which level they're investigating their owner for potentially being involved in all kinds of nasty things in Africa. I read today the Sudan war. Yes, reputedly they've been funding one of the militias there, which is up to very unfortunate things, and it's getting into the fit and proper person test area in terms of the
good Lord.
So dodgy bunch there for sure.
Well, I'm sure the Premier League will fine them for that.
Exactly. Yes, nobody's holding their breath on the 115 charges. Well, the decision was made apparently in December 2024, but they haven't quite dotted the I's and crossed the T's yet. So we should wait in anticipation without holding our breath. Okay, so a pretty good 3 weeks for Arsenal. We're back where we should be, and we're not hearing Arteta out anymore from those who were a little bit vocal after the Man City defeat, and in my view didn't even watch the game. I'm not sure what they saw. But I'm just going to say thanks to my panel of Tony, Basti and Ian. And I would explain that I'm very grateful to Ian in particular for recording this. So we'll be back in 2 weeks, but I'm now going to ask Ian to press the stop record button at your end.